issues being raised by vaccine experts and scientists. So,
And then it says, according to reports, doctors, nurses, and teachers will be given the shot first. Will be given the shot first in October.
yeah,
So I think
and
this
that is
is a kind of mandatory
yeah, kaya nga.
vaccination.
So I don't know, no, baka it's allowed by Russian law, but in most countries kasi you really have to volunteer. Oo. And in the perks, 'di ba? Alam naman natin na if you're in many other countries, medical care is expensive. Consultation and blah blah.
So
So when I oh,
I don't know all the details, no? But apparently, our government has signed on this
yeah,
an
but the problem is
experiment.
we do not know if it's part of the study. If I'm not mistaken, the Thai government agreed na yung Oxford trials can be done there. I don't know if that's the case or government allowed the research to
Mm.
be done here, or if the government will procure the vaccine and give it to interested
But that will
citizens.
be available only in January, according to the
Yeah,
MIT Technology Review.
hmm. That's the thing, no. We don't know exactly
Now,
what
my
the
other question here is, I thought it was going to be the Chinese vaccine that is already
well,
being.
it's a race. It's a sort of race, di ba? Innovation and
Yes.
race. So essentially, the Russian government trumped
Okay,
them
but
all.
before we go to the science and technology and society aspect of it, it says here
Oh,
also the Russian vaccine uses an adenovirus to deliver components of the pathogen that causes
yeah. It's
COVID-19.
a it's
What does that mean?
it's a common cold virus.
Ah,
Oh.
so what?
I think well, I'm not really an immunologist, but based on what I read dun sa review on sa Science journal, di ba? That's the
Mm-mm.
American Association of Science, AAS journal. The the cold virus kasi, the initial infection for COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 is through the nose. So ganun ang strategy nila. It's a cold virus kasi don't go beyond, don't infect you beyond the nose. Maybe Dr. Ong can tell you us more about it. No? Colds
Oh, yeah,
infect
maybe
the
Bush
nose.
should. So what does this mean,
So,
Butch?
oh,
That
Yeah.
the adenovirus to deliver the components of the part that causes.
Okay, so the way a vaccine works, let's dissect the issue first, no? To understand what's going on. So a vaccine contains parts of the virus, no? So it's a dead virus, no? So they're gonna chop up the virus into parts and then inject it into the person, no? Or it is a live but weakened virus, no? Attenuated ang tawag namin, no? So what the body does is that it identifies the components injected into you as foreign. That's a foreign body, no? So a virus is a foreign body to you. So it will produce antibodies and fight it. No? So those antibodies have memory. No? So your immunity has memory. No? So that when the actual virus hits you, the body recognizes a part of it and says, "Oh, kilala ko na yan. Sugod, mga kapatid, mga kababayan." So it already knows how to react. No?
Parang UP
So,
pala yan. Ano na.
so it already knows how to react and how
Yeah.
to respond, no? So that's how a virus works. A
Okay.
vaccine works.
So
It does not.
you're going to be like inoculated with the virus itself.
uh, well, a part of
Ganun ba
a
yun?
virus or a weakened virus. Now,
All right.
it does not mean na I have to mention this, no? Kasi ang dami ng tatanong, no? If I get a flu shot, I'm already immune. No, when you get a flu shot, no, you can still get the flu, but your body responds faster. No, so your body responds earlier. You can still get the flu. So during flu season, mask pa rin tayo, etc. Now, ito naman sa adenovirus. Adenovirus is a different virus from a coronavirus. No? Magkaiba sila, no? A coronavirus kasi is not really harmful to humans until now, no? It is really for animals, the coronavirus for animals. It does give you colds and cough, That's why the symptoms is cough and diba? But the adenovirus is the common cold. We have that every year, no? Now, what it does is that what they did when you said the adenovirus is the delivery, no, it means that parts of the adenovirus, which is similar to the coronavirus, is placed inside the vaccine. So, so it's not the coronavirus itself that is placed inside the vaccine, but I think the
It's like they found a simple solution to the
yeah. Now
uh,
there's controversy to that in the medical field, no, because it is not from the coronavirus.
coronavirus.
It is not from the
So how
SARS-CoV-2
can it be a
virus.
vaccine?
No?
Uh,
So if you're given the adenovirus vaccine, if it is the adenovirus, then you've been vaccinated against the common cold.
so they found a vaccine against the
But
cold.
yeah, but in the laboratory naman, there are ways to modify the genetic makeup or to modify the proteins. No, I think Dr. Valia and I met a while ago and discussed this bit, about the spike proteins. Remember sa coronavirus may mga spikes. That's why when you cut it in half, you see a crown. No? So the spike proteins, they're the ones that act like a key, no? And then the receptors in the cell is the doors, the doorknob. So the key fits into the doorknob, the keyhole quite well, no? And I think, and it opens the door. The virus goes inside. I believe if they've done their research correctly and they've done their synthesis correctly, um, the adenovirus could have been likened to the coronavirus, and then that's what they inject. No? So for me, scientifically, it can work. Yeah, it can work. No, but
Yeah. So the ano there is we'll go now to the fact that it's called Sputnik 5.
okay.
Ben, go for it.
Yeah,
How do
okay.
you read
I
this
mean, it's
that it is Sputnik
interesting,
5?
well, this is the thing about
Because
well,
even if, for example, we talk about Sputnik 5, I was gonna show sana a video of what Sputnik 1 was, just to make it clearer to the audience. But anyway, why how do you understand it that they named it Sputnik 5?
yeah, well, we have to look at the context of recent history, di ba, of Russia. Remember, they one of the things when Russia was still part of the Soviet Union is no longer here with us. It disintegrated, di ba? Uh, One of the things that
Except the
yeah,
president was a KGB of the Soviet Union.
the but one of the things about Marxism and Leninism is to put a premium on technology, developing technology. So essentially, that's what the Soviet government did, was to identify which sectors of technology in which they can be advanced, no? And in that case, in the Cold War, those are the ones with possible military applications. So they were the first one to send satellites into orbit. Sputnik is the name of that. Now,
It's a
eventually,
reference to the fact that they really beat the Americans to
yeah, they beat
the
it there,
space.
even for the first person in space, di ba?
Yeah.
Uh, si Yuri Gagarin was the first one in space, so they beat the
was
Americans
a
there.
was a Russian. Eh.
Oh, but
So
the thing is, the
to simplify it, are we saying that are they saying and they're really
oh,
saying
you have to look at
that
in the
the Russian scientists are to be reckoned with?
yeah, we have to put it in the context of the recent history of Russia, no? Uh, After 1989, when the communist and socialist system in Europe started, di ba, people were demanding democratic rights, no? Essentially, eventually, the communist parties had to give up power in Eastern Europe, and so including in Russia, di ba? In Russia, eventually, the Soviet party had to give up power to the Russian Federation. Then the thing is, when Russia moved on from its Marxist-Leninist part of its history and became the Russia that we have today, they lost some of the technological edge in many ways. No, their space program, which is the pride of the Soviet Union, ran out of money, so they had to get American money to keep the satellites going, the space program going. And so for the last 30 years or so, there's no innovation of that is really Russian. Diba? It's China who essentially filled up that niche. The Americans are still innovating, but it was the Chinese that actually filled up that niche in the last 30 years or so. Russia, wala tayong naririnig na new technological development from Russia, no? And
Except they
so
were still part
now,
of the International Space Station.
yeah, but that's essentially almost American funded. The Russians were just sending the old rockets to bring supplies there, di ba? So, uh, so now you have a vaccine that would bring prestige to Russia, that they are the first ones to come up with the COVID vaccine. So it's almost similar to the time when they launched the first satellite. So they're telling the world that we are the first here. We are still a
Yeah, except
country.
the
Uh,
tricky thing here is that they're not following the regulations for testing.
yeah, but that's debatable, no? Until we
Ah,
until we
really?
get
Okay.
until we get the story. Until we get the story from the Russians, no? Because one vaccine scientist said this, no, we just cannot dismiss this issue about the Russians coming up with it, no, and telling that they tested it, because it's possible that the Russians were extremely lucky at the first shot they got it right. Diba? Like in Sputnik, the first time they launched the satellite they got it right, diba? Yung Americans launched satellites later, yung iba nag-crash. Diba? So it could be that the Russians are extremely lucky they got the vaccine right at the first time, no? So we have to wait for if the Russian scientists are transparent enough as standard scientific practice is internationally, then they would make all the data available to other vaccine scientists. Uh,
Yeah. So Bush, you want to add
Yeah.
something to that?
Yung when they named it Sputnik 5, when I thought about it, that was brilliant. It's like they won the race again. So
yeah,
there
they
is
won the race
a
again.
yeah, so there is a psychological and historical basis for their naming Sputnik 5. But then after about a few minutes, that could have I told myself that could have been a disaster. You know why? Because there are a lot of a lot of experts saying that Sputnik was space junk. No, it doesn't have any purpose but to put something
That's
up
American
there.
propaganda.
it, what does it do? It doesn't do anything. So you know, it's both genius on the part of Russia to put the history behind it. No, that Sputnik was the first, and there was a race. They were the first to put it there, but then they should explain it that way because the other parts of the world, no,
That's
the
that's
experts
the
say it's
that, that's
space
one
junk.
explanation why it was called Sputnik 5, because
Oh,
Sputnik 5 was the one that came back.
that
That
came out. Well,
that
it,
came.
well, it, it crashed. So it crashed back. Gravity caught hold of it again. No, so yeah, but then
So
again, we're
the
digressing.
MIT Technology Review says that the Russian vaccine claim could encourage the Trump administration to fast track emergency approval of one of several vaccines being tested by the US program.
So
So
Yeah,
it's
that's how they're
exactly.
encouraging.
reading it.
Exactly
So,
what they did in the Cold War, because the Russians were able to launch Sputnik using their own Vostok rockets, di ba? So what did the Americans do? They got a ballistic missile that used to have a nuclear warhead and put the satellite on top. The first test launches did not work out properly, di ba? And so the Russians were lucky; they got it right the first time. So it's the same thing. Essentially, Sputnik, the vaccine, is actually the first shot in the new Cold War. Mm.
Yes. So
And, and, and there,
what might happen is that China will try
no,
to
no,
beat them to
naunahan
it.
yung China
Or
eh.
ano nga, but will they
Naunahan yung
maybe,
China. So
but
it's
China
again
has its own
Russia,
medicine, right?
uh,
The traditional
Russia,
medicine.
Russia versus the USA, Russia versus the West. And China will probably get into it much later. Naunahan yung China eh. Ano.
Yes. So do
So
you
it's
think
also a
that this kind of competition is going to be good in the long run?
yeah, it would mean more research grants for scientists belonging to certain disciplines.
And
For
also
So
me to
the
win talaga. No,
oh,
because I remember when they had their Russia versus US space race, no, a lot of funding was actually poured in by the US Congress, poured into the space program of the US. So they're from the Saturn V rocket to the space shuttle program, no. So maybe because of this, no,
because
government
the
will put
but
attention to that.
the other question is whether developing the vaccine, of course, would bring in money not only because the economy will start operating again, but because that would mean that everyone will be buying the vaccine from them.
yeah,
I
and
guess so.
The Russians are essentially betting on because remember now in a more polarized political geopolitical environment, no.
Yes.
Um, there are countries which are allying with Russia, which the Americans placed economic sanctions on. Example, Iran, di ba? And Syria, okay? The so-called, ano ba yung sabi, sino nagsabi nun? Axis of Terror ba? Who's that US President? Axis of Terror, yung
Bush
mga
Jr.
Bush, no, di ba? So this has been happening for the last 25 years.
Mm.
So because the American sanctions would make it hard for these countries to buy the vaccine from the Europeans and the Americans. So that's another thing that
But
the Russians
another
are betting
conspiracy
on.
theory question would be, since science is never done in isolation but in collaboration,
Oh,
who are the allies of the Russians here?
yeah, China.
Conspiracy theory,
Probably, probably Iran, kasi
Iran.
Iran is also a very innovative country. People think it doesn't mean if it's an Islamic republic, hindi siya innovative. It's very innovative, especially in engineering and biomedicine. So these are the things. The Russians will they would work with Russia really in many.
So, what's your final reflection on this? Do you think
Oh, it's interesting
it's a go? Or
because
do you think this is
no, the thing with vaccines, no, this is what will happen with vaccines, no. Many countries would come up with more or less effective vaccines, no, and that is good for innovation and competition, no. Now, of course, the different countries will try to promote their own vaccine. So the American government will probably buy up the vaccines that were made by the Americans. No? So, ang kawawa dyan are countries like, saan tayo bibili ng vaccine? If these world powers, di ba? So, yeah.
so in that the end of the article says in June China also approved a vaccine made by CanSino Biologics for use by its military.
Yeah,
The
because,
country has offered experimental vaccines to officials at state enterprises in China.
yeah, but
So
for
there
the
is a
army.
vaccine.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing is, the Russians are going to market it commercially.
So there is a vaccine.
Yeah, they were able to develop it. One of the
For
first.
our viewers, this is from the MIT Technology Review. So I am not an agent of China. This is from MIT Technology Review.
Yeah, but remember, nauna yung Russians to say that we're going to 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 distribute it. No? Now,
Yeah, but
yung
it's
tatlo
very clear
nila,
there that there is an approved vaccine
oh,
that is used by the Chinese military.
yeah,
That is
because nag-approve naman the National Health Authority eh. So Russia has its own health
there is a
department.
vaccine. Of course, the Chinese would like to hold on to it, and it's
Yeah,
not in their interest to make it to commercialize it.
No, they will. Knowing China, they will commercialize it later on. Now, that's the thing, no. It's not only in vaccines, no. Probably in other aspects of health. Magkaroon sila ng health race.
Well, wasn't
Yeah.
that the prediction of Bill Gates? And this is going to be there was going to be a pandemic, and that it's going to be the most
No.
important
Yeah.
science or health issue.
Yeah, but it's just amazing that the Russians were the first ones to do it. Because China had the advantage at the beginning because they were the ones who had the SARS pandemic. So since 2000, since early 2000s, they've been developing technologies for a vaccine for coronavirus. Tapos naunahan sila ng Russia. This is quite interesting.
But there is no vaccine for SARS.
For SARS. Because the world was able to suppress it immediately. So hindi na
So
nag-develop
there
ng
was no
SARS
need.
vaccine. Pati MERS, okay,
Yeah.
MERS did not spread beyond the Middle East, so na-suppress ka agad. It's COVID-19 that's all over the world.
So do you still have your presentation on Jesuit scientists?
But do we have time? Maybe
You
next
can have
time na lang.
one. Oh, so okay. So
Sabi ko
we
nga yung
have, we
slide.
have
Oo.
so let's talk about our government. How soon? So are we caught
Okay.
between the Chinese and the Russian vaccine?
Sa press release, sinabi na we are allowing the testing of the new vaccine here. Na yun ang sabi. Well, if yun yung mga nasa international news wires, no? Like Deutsche Welle, sinabi the Philippines agreed to have the Russian vaccine tested here. So it's just like the
But
ties
we're going to be part of the experiment.
of the study.
Yeah.
You know, how the government will implement that? Will it call for volunteers or require the soldiers to get tested?
No, we Filipinos, they will try
Interesting
anything.
question. Huh?
I mean, people would like to try anything. They should try it in,
Okay, going back, di ba, tinanong mo kanina, Jovi, about what do volunteers for medical research get? No? Kasi I volunteered for some vaccine trials, no? Some weird Australian virus. na they want to see if I had the antibody titer for that virus. No? The perks is, kasi in many countries, healthcare is extremely expensive. No? So ang perk niyan is if you volunteer for studies like that, covered lahat ng healthcare costs mo for the duration of the research. So when you go to the doctor, walang consultation fee.
because they're going to expose you to the virus, di ba?
Hindi yun yung perk. Para mag-volunteer ka, may perk talaga. And the
But
perk,
that's basically what's going to happen, right, Boot?
yeah, because
They inoculate you and then they expose you to the virus.
No,
Oh,
what happens is that they choose an area which has an endemic or high number. No? So,
Ah.
for example, in the Baksha, they chose NCR, they chose Samar, I think, and Bohol, no, where there was a high number. So, with if we're going to do testing here for the vaccine, they're going to choose high risk areas. For example, they'll choose people in Rizal. They'll choose people in Quezon City, no, where there's
So,
a high number.
so are you implying, are we prepared to cover their health expenses?
hindi, yun nga, that should be the deal with the research, the Russians maybe, or the researchers, no? Because it's totally unethical for medical researchers to pay volunteers. Kasi once they do that, they're practicing medicine. Malpractice sila. So usually nangyayari, they call for volunteers, and the usual perks are you get free, more enhanced healthcare. Oo, for the
Paano yan?
duration.
Wala nang pera yung Philippines.
Hindi, syempre yung researcher magbabayad no. Let's say if the Russian should pay
Russia.
for that.
Russia will pay for it, no?
Oh, tapos if something happens to you, adverse reaction, you hospital ka ng research program. Oh, babayaran yung ICU mo.
Lahat.
Well, those are the perks. And,
Hindi yan
and, and
Hindi yan
huh?
para donating blood and you just get juice and
Oh,
cookies no afterwards. It's more than that kasi this is an experimental
yeah,
drug.
you sign a contract and a consent form with the research group, no? Nandun yun, nasa terms yun nung
So
research
even
group.
even if we agree to be part of the study, it's not going to be. Let's not pin our
Ah,
hopes on it because it's still a study and it's gonna,
yeah.
you know, how many kaya can will be part of the study?
Well, I don't know. Kailangan makita natin yung research proposal
Kasi
ng mga
30,000 lang naman ang kailangan, di ba?
oh,
Oh, so
For the
that,
third phase.
no. For Dengvaxia, they did 30,000. Yes, no. But for COVID, they might do less because time is of the essence, no. But again, no, kapag pipili ka which vaccine will win no, in whatever bidding, no. Let's say several vaccines will be applying for approval, no. You also have to look at the numbers. How many vaccine A was tested on, the B and C and D, no. So the more volunteers or the larger the sample size na lang sabihin natin, the better, no. If we're going to have a vaccine tested only on 2,000 people and with a very high mark, no, versus a vaccine tested on 3 million people, uh, just having a fair mark.
But you know, I've taken care of my mom for the last 5 years, you know. But I have the impression that any medicine that we take is part of a study,
no, that's true. It was developed by a study.
even if it's
No,
already FDA approved,
no, that's
because
true.
they, you know,
Oh,
we
that's
also
true.
because my mom was a pharmacy, so we also get the memes. So it always
Yeah,
says there side effects, and a lot
it's
of
that
medicine can also cause cancer.
it's a it's the job of your attending doctor to tell you of the risk.
Yeah, so in a way, well, you know, that's the
Okay,
philosopher in me. I'm a bit
go,
fatalistic. Yes.
going back to to vaccine trials. I used to teach when I was an exchange professor sa US. So I taught this in biostatistics. No, one of the first extensively documented is the Salk oral polio vaccine. Diba? It was developed after
That's
World
what
War II, 1950s.
did we all have to take that? Yun yung
No,
parang sugar.
yeah, but the time na we were in grade school, Jovi, ano na siya, na-establish na yung
Uh,
safety.
Uh,
But initially, when they started testing it in the 1950s, no, medyo maluwag pa yung medical ethics noon. Tapos ang nangyari, tinest na lang nila sa mga estudyante, grade school children in the US, no, around 400,000 grade school pupils. Out of that 400,000, only about 600 developed adverse reactions, and some of them died. And some of these reactions are not connected with the vaccine at all. So, isang malaking trial lang yon, establish na yung safety margin ng oral polio vaccine.
how many subjects?
400,000
Ah,
students.
400,000. So that's a lot. But the vaccine is basically like approved already at
Hindi.
that level.
They had one big test, tapos nung nalaman na
Ah,
600 lang yung namatay, inapprove ka agad.
yeah, because of the I guess but we're not from an ethical point of view. I don't know
No.
if the other ethicists, professional
Eh,
ethicists will agree.
hindi, iba na
Maybe
ngayon.
the lesser evil is
Dati,
not,
ano,
yeah, yeah,
dati
if we have
pare,
yeah,
oh.
between the
Remember,
pandemic and
these were school children, school children, pupils in the elementary school. At
yes,
that time, the mentality of the parents is, once I leave my child in the school has parental authority over pupils. So okay lang na sa parents na bigyan sila ng oral polio vaccine in school, 'di ba? Eh
yeah,
right
and
now
to
that
now we have anti-vaxxers, diba? So, but yeah, so it's a but that's a different topic naman, the ethical aspect of it. But
but
the science is, it seems that we are signing on to the study.
yeah, the point is we need more. If the Russians would like to establish how effective their vaccine is, they need to have lots of volunteers. Yun lang yung point doon.
And
Volunteers,
you need to cover their health costs.
of course,
Hell,
just in case something happens.
yeah. I wonder if there can, I don't know, the insurance companies will not want to tie up with them.
You better check your policy. Baka pag nag-volunteer ka, makulit ka ng cover.
No. I'm using another study, which is boosting your immunity study. So, what's your final What's your final word for this week?
Sige,
Well,
I'll take it muna. I'll take it muna. My final word is, yes, we hear news of a vaccine. One says the Russians say it's ready, the Chinese say it's already there. No, but we should not really pin our hopes muna on the vaccine. No, it's really self-discipline that will win the war here. No, um, we have seen successes already in some regions, especially Cebu, where the R value has really gone down below one, and they seem to be suppressing it quite well. But then again, they had ECQ, not ECQ for 1 month, no, and we're having our modified ECQ for 2 weeks. So I like what one of my colleagues said about this condition, no, that we should have the mindset of even if we're on GCQ or MECQ, we should have the mindset of prevention, mindset that we are still in ECQ. So that's the actually for me that's a new normal, no? Being careful and being prudent and being preventive. No? Now we can still win this even without a vaccine. It just depends on how our immune system will hold up, how our healthcare system will hold up. No, the vaccine when it comes, it will come. No, but right now we can do something about it today. No? So let's do our part.
Because
So that's my
you probably need we don't know if we need boosters as well. No, so even if
yeah.
the vaccine is there.
We might need boosters. It might not be one shot. It might be 5 shots distributed over the year. No, so hindi lang simpleng bagay yan. And mind you, a new vaccine is expensive. Do you know that in Vaxia, when it was released, one shot out of the three, no, one shot is about 2,500 yata or 3,000 pesos. One shot. So a new vaccine is expensive, no? So with this new COVID-19 vaccine, well, it could be given for free. We don't know, no? But again, we have no more money to buy a vaccine. So it could be sold, you know? So there. So for me, meron tayong magagawa today. We should not wait for the vaccine, no?
By the way, my other question: who decided on that we're going to be part of the study?
Well, our executive department,
Uh-huh.
maybe with recommendation from the Department of Health.
All right. So Ben, your final word.
Yeah, well, this is really amazing what's happening. No? You can just see how powerful science is because the COVID-19 erupted just at the beginning of the year, tapos ngayon meron na tayong vaccine. Okay, whereas before, 20 or 40 years ago, it takes years to develop a vaccine. Para yung oral polio vaccine, took them more than 15 years to develop it. So you can just imagine yung progress natin in molecular biology and molecular medicine to come with. But still, even with that, we optimistic for having a vaccine. But still, the scientific process of making sure that it is safe for distribution to people who need it, that has to be that doesn't change. No?
Yeah.
So let's wait for the Russians to come up with more information on how effective their vaccine is before we start raising our hopes.
All right. So again, it all boils down to what we can do, no? Right here, right now. So that's our show. Thanks, Ben and Butch. We'll plan again for our show next week. Well, we'll never run out of science issues to talk about. So that's our show this week. So on the Sputnik 5. So talagang Sputnik ka ngayon. See you again next week. And thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Katipunan